The Wind Cabin. In a hidden valley nestled between mountains, where the whisper of the wind was a language everyone understood, lived an old man named Kaido. His home was no ordinary structure. It was a simple wooden cabin, open to all four winds, with no doors or windows to shut it in. Each day, Kaido would sit in front of his cabin, letting the wind play with his hair while he listened intently to its song. There was no room for noise or haste, only the steady murmur of the air, as if telling ancient stories. One day, a young traveler arrived, weary and burdened by city life. When he saw the open and seemingly fragile cabin, he asked in surprise, "Aren't you afraid the wind will take everything away?" Kaido smiled and replied gently, "The wind doesn't take. It teaches us to let go." The traveler stood there, gazing at the cabin, feeling for the first time the freedom the wind could offer. The young man, intrigued, decided to stay a few days with Kaido to better understand his words. In the mornings, he watched the old man walk barefoot through the valley, letting the wind caress his skin and tousle his robe. How can something so invisible and yet so strong teach you to let go? He asked one afternoon, as the sun began to disappear behind the mountains. Kaido pointed toward the cabin and said, "Look at my home. There are no walls to block the wind, no objects clinging tightly. Everything I have is ready to come and go, because true strength lies not in holding on, but in allowing." The wind, like an old friend, flowed in and out, carrying away dry leaves and bringing with it the fresh scent of the forest. The young man began to feel his mind clearing, just like the cabin, open to the unexpected. One night, the wind grew wild and fierce. A storm swept through the valley with rain and gusts that seemed determined to tear the cabin apart. Concerned, the young man turned to Kaito and asked, "Aren't you afraid the storm will destroy your home?" Kaito, with the calm of someone who has learned to flow, replied, "The cabin doesn't endure because it's strong. It endures because it knows how to yield. The wind may shake it, may make it sway, but it can never break it, because it was never built to fight." As he spoke, the young man felt something within himself begin to loosen, as if his own inner rigidity could also yield to the storms of life. By dawn, the storm had passed. The cabin still stood, untouched, and the wind now whispered gently, like a soft caress. The next morning, the young man walked through the valley with Kaito. The air was crisp, and raindrops sparkled on the leaves like tiny lights. "How did you learn to live this way, so open to the wind?" the young man asked. Kaito paused beside an old tree and watched its branches sway gently. "Many years ago," he said, "I used to cling to everything I had, my belongings, my thoughts, even my emotions. I tried to control life, as if it were something I could hold tightly or keep from moving. But then the wind came and showed me another way." The old man raised his hand and let the wind pass freely through his fingers. "The wind taught me that holding on brings suffering, and in letting go, one finds peace. The cabin is both my teacher and my mirror, open, flexible, free." The young man felt a new stillness rise in his chest, as if, for the first time, he understood the invisible language of the wind. Days went by, and the young man began to experience the freedom Kaito had shown him. He learned to let go of his worries, his obsessive desires, and his fear of change, just as the cabin let the wind pass through without resistance. One afternoon, as they both gazed out over the valley, the young man asked, "What happens when the wind doesn't blow? Don't you feel empty or alone then?" Kaito smiled gently and replied, "The wind is always there, even when we can't feel it. Sometimes it's soft, sometimes it's strong, but it never truly leaves. Even in stillness, its presence remains, quiet and steady. Life is the same," he added. There are moments of movement and moments of stillness, and in both we learn to simply be without clinging or resisting. The young man realized then that the cabin was not just a physical shelter, but a symbol of a mind that accepts and flows with the natural rhythm of the world. One evening, as the sun began to set, the young man and Kaito heard a soft whistling coming from the valley. It was the wind whispering once again. The young man closed his eyes and let the breeze brush across his face. He felt all his tension melt away as a deep sense of calm wrapped around him. "Kaito," the young man said, "I understand now. The cabin isn't just open to the wind. It's open to life itself, to its changes, its losses, and its gifts." The old man nodded and added, "When we stop resisting, life moves through us without hurting us. True strength lies in being flexible like the cabin, in learning to dance with the wind instead of trying to stop it." The young man smiled, feeling that something new had awakened inside him. A different way of living, with lightness, with acceptance, with love. Days turned into weeks, and the young man was no longer the same. The worry that once consumed him had softened into a gentle serenity, like the wind that touches without clinging. One morning, as the breeze gently stirred the leaves, the young man asked, "Kaito, what should I do now that I've learned to let go?" The old man looked out toward the horizon and replied, "Nothing, just remain open like the cabin. Life will come and go like the wind, and your only task is to move with it without resistance." "The secret," Kaito said calmly, "is not to hold on to anything, not even to the teachings. True freedom is living without attachments, fully present, open to whatever may come." The young man took a deep breath, feeling his heart expand with a boundless, peaceful stillness. At dawn, the young man decided it was time to leave, carrying in his soul the lesson of the wind and the open cabin. Before departing, he said goodbye to Kaito. "Now I understand that no matter what life brings, I can be at peace, because I've learned to let go and to flow." Kaito smiled and pointed toward the valley. "Always remember, the wind is invisible, but its presence is real. Live like the cabin, open, flexible, without fear, and you will never feel lost." The young man walked into the mountains, each step a quiet dance with the wind. In his heart, he carried the deep knowing that true strength lies in the ability to yield, to let life move in and out without resistance. And so, the cabin of the wind remained eternal and silent, a gentle reminder that peace is found in surrender and in the freedom to simply be.